Hello and welcome to Best English Podcast. I'm Sarah, your host, and I'm really happy you are here with me today. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining. If you've been with us before, welcome back, my friend. Today's episode is very important because we are going to talk about the journey of listening growth, how you move from beginner to intermediate to advanced in English listening. Many learners believe listening is just one skill. Either you understand or you don't. But in reality, listening grows in stages. Just like a tree grows from a seed to a small plant to a strong tree, your listening also grows step by step. And here's the good news. No matter where you are right now, you can keep moving forward. Even if you feel stuck, there is always another step. The key is to understand what stage you are in and what actions will help you move to the next one. Now let's begin by looking at the very first stage, the beginner listener. When you start learning English, listening feels very hard. You hear sounds, but they seem too fast. Words join together, and it feels like one long noise. You may think, I can't understand anything. But actually, even at the beginner stage, your brain is already working. Maybe you understand numbers, names, or simple words like yes, no, good, or hello. You may not catch whole sentences, but your ears are starting to get used to the music of English. Think of it this way. If English is like a song, at first you only hear the melody, not the words. You cannot sing along yet, but your ears are learning the rhythm. Let me share a short story. One of my students, Maria, started listening to English radio when she was a beginner. She told me, Sarah, it's impossible. It's just noise. I can't catch even one sentence. But I asked her to keep going, just 10 minutes every day. At first, she only recognized a few words. School, Monday, thank you. But after a few weeks, she noticed something strange. She started to hear repeated sounds, repeated expressions. She told me, I still don't understand everything, but now I can catch small pieces. I can hear where one sentence ends and the next one begins. That is the secret of the beginner stage. Even if you don't understand much, your brain is slowly, quietly learning the sound system of English. So if you are at this level, what should you do? Listen every day, even for a short time. Don't wait until you understand. Listening is training, not a test. Don't worry about every word. Just let the sound wash over you, like listening to music. Choose easy, familiar content. Songs for children, short stories, or simple podcasts. Repeat. If you listen to the same short piece many times, your brain will slowly open the door to meaning. At the beginner stage, your job is not to understand everything. Your job is to train your ears and make English sounds feel normal. Just like a child listens for years before speaking fluently, you need this period of silent growth. It feels slow, but it is powerful. And little by little, something amazing happens. You move from only hearing noise to catching words, and finally to catching short sentences. This is the sign that you are ready to step into the next stage of listening growth. So, we talked about the beginner stage, the place where everything feels like noise, but slowly your ears start to catch familiar sounds. Now let's move to the next step, the early intermediate stage of listening. At this stage, something interesting happens. Suddenly, you begin to recognize not only words but also short phrases and very simple sentences. You listen to a podcast or a TV show and you think, oh, I understood that line. It feels exciting, almost like finding a little treasure. But here's the truth. The early intermediate stage is also tricky. Why? Because your brain starts to understand some things, but not everything. This creates a strange feeling. One moment you feel confident, yes, I got it, and the next moment you feel lost again. I like to compare this stage to watching a movie with bad internet connection. You see one clear image, then it freezes. You see another part, then it freezes again. You get the pieces, but not the full picture. That's exactly what early intermediate listening feels like. You understand a few parts here and there, but you don't always know how they connect. Let me share a quick example from one of my students, Ahmed. When he reached this stage, he loved watching English cartoons. He told me, Sarah, I understand when the character says, let's go, or hurry up. But when they talk in long sentences, I get lost. That's completely normal. At this level, your ears are faster, but your brain still needs more practice connecting the dots. So, what should you do at the early intermediate stage? Let me give you a few simple but powerful tips. Use subtitles, but carefully. Watch a show with English subtitles. Listen first, then check the words. Don't read all the time, just use subtitles to help your brain connect sounds to text. Listen to short conversations. Dialogues are easier than long speeches. You can practice with podcasts, YouTube videos, or even short interviews. Repeat and shadow. Shadowing means listening to a short sentence and repeating it at the same time, like an echo. This helps your ears, your mouth, and your memory work together. Focus on common expressions. At this stage, it's not about fancy vocabulary. It's about catching everyday phrases like, I don't know, are you sure? What do you mean? These are the bricks of real conversation. The early intermediate stage is full of small victories. Every word you catch, every phrase you recognize, is proof that you are moving forward. Yes, you still miss a lot, but you are no longer standing at the bottom of the mountain. You've started climbing, and now you can see a little bit of the view. And as you keep climbing, something new happens. You begin to connect the pieces more smoothly. Now let's move to the intermediate stage of listening. This is where many of you listening right now probably are. At this stage, you are no longer a beginner. You are able to catch more than just words or short phrases. You can actually follow the main idea of a conversation or a story. For example, you listen to a podcast and maybe you don't understand every detail, but you know the general topic. They're talking about travel, or they're explaining healthy food. That's a big step forward. At the intermediate stage, your brain is now strong enough to make guesses. You start filling the gaps with logic and context. You may miss one or two words, but you can still understand the sentence because your brain says, this word probably means something like this. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you are looking at a puzzle. At the beginner stage, you only had one or two puzzle pieces, so the picture was almost invisible. But now, at the intermediate stage, you have half of the puzzle. You can see the shape. You know what the picture is about, even if some pieces are missing. That's how listening works at this level. You don't need every piece to understand the message. I remember a student named Lila. She once told me, Sarah, I finally understood a TED Talk. Not everything, of course, but I understood what the speaker wanted to say. I even laughed when the audience laughed because I got the joke. This was a huge confidence boost for her. She realized that listening is not about being perfect, it's about catching the big picture. So what should you focus on during the intermediate stage? Here are a few important steps. Train to catch the main idea. Don't get stuck on small words you don't know. Ask yourself, what is the speaker really talking about? Listen to longer content. At this stage, short clips are not enough. Try 10 to 15 minutes of a podcast or watch a full TV episode. Your brain needs longer practice to keep focus. Practice note-taking. Write down keywords while you listen. Not whole sentences, just the main ideas. This trains your brain to organize what you hear. Stay relaxed. If you panic when you miss words, you lose focus. Remember, understanding the main idea is success. Details will come later. One more important thing, at the intermediate stage, your emotions are very important. Sometimes you feel frustrated because you still miss details. But don't forget, you've already climbed far up the mountain. You can now understand conversations, podcasts, maybe even movies with subtitles. That's amazing progress. And as you keep listening, connecting ideas, and training your ears, you begin to enter the upper intermediate stage, the stage where listening becomes more natural and automatic. Now we've arrived at the stage many learners dream about. The advanced stage of listening. This is the point where you can understand almost everything you hear in English. Movies without subtitles, podcasts with complex topics, news reports, debates, even academic lectures. You can follow them with very little difficulty. It doesn't mean you understand every single word. Even native speakers sometimes miss words or phrases, especially if the sound is bad or the speaker has a very strong accent. But at the advanced stage, missing a word doesn't stop you. Your brain fills the gap instantly, and you keep going without stress. At the beginner stage, listening was like standing outside a closed door. You could hear sounds, but you couldn't enter. At the intermediate stage, the door opened halfway. You could see inside, but not everything was clear. Now, at the advanced stage, the door is wide open. You walk inside the room, look around, and feel comfortable. You belong there. One of my students, Hannah, reached this stage after years of steady practice. She once told me, Sarah, yesterday I was listening to an English podcast about climate change. The speakers were scientists, using big words, but I understood almost everything. I even wrote notes and explained it to my friends later, in English. That is advanced listening. You're not only understanding, you're also processing, analyzing, and retelling in your own words. So, how do you train at the advanced level? Here are some strategies that really help. Challenge yourself with complex content. Don't just listen to entertainment. Try TED Talks, academic lectures, or professional interviews. Push your brain higher. Pay attention to subtle meaning. At this level, it's not about what did they say, but what do they really mean? Notice irony, cultural references, and indirect language. Work with different accents. Native English is spoken in many varieties: British, American, Australian, Canadian, African, and more. Advanced listeners can switch easily. Practice summarizing. After listening, explain what you heard, in English out loud. This makes your listening active, not passive. Enjoy the music of English. Every language has rhythm, melody, and flow. At this stage, you hear English like music. You know when something sounds natural and when it doesn't. Reaching this level doesn't happen in 1 month or even 1 year. It's a long journey, but every step makes you stronger. And the best part? Once you touch this stage, English stops being foreign, it becomes part of who you are. So after advanced listening comes something very special. Some people call it mastery. Some people call it near native listening. This stage is not about only understanding words. It's about understanding the soul of the language. At this point, English doesn't feel like something you study anymore. It feels like something you live with. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cafe in London or New York. Two friends at the next table are talking quickly about their weekend, using slang, jokes, maybe even whispering sometimes. You're not trying to study their English, but your ears pick up everything naturally. You even laugh at the right moment because you get the joke. That is near native listening. When I was younger, I went to Canada for a short trip. At that time, I was already advanced in English, but not yet at mastery. I remember sitting with my Canadian friends, and suddenly they started using idioms and cultural references that I had never studied in textbooks. At first, I felt lost, but after weeks of listening every day, my brain adapted. One day, I realized something amazing. I wasn't translating anymore. I wasn't thinking, what does this mean in my language? I was simply understanding. The English was going directly into my thoughts. That moment changed everything. Now, how can you as a learner reach this level? Here are some important points. Immerse yourself fully. This means daily exposure, not just in class, but in life. Music, movies, YouTube, conversations, podcasts, everything. Focus on cultural context. At this stage, language is not only about words, it's about history, humor, traditions, and even emotions behind the words. Stop depending on subtitles or translations. They can help in earlier stages, but at mastery, they slow you down. Train your brain to trust itself. Listen for layers. A native speaker often says one thing but means something deeper. For example, if someone says, "yeah, right," in a certain tone, it might mean they actually don't believe it. Mastery means you can catch those layers instantly. Enjoy the music of English. Every language has rhythm, melody, and flow. At this stage, you hear English like music. You know when something sounds natural and when it doesn't. When learners move from advanced listening to near native listening, many of them feel stuck. It's like climbing a mountain. You've already gone so high, but the last part feels the hardest. Let's talk honestly about some of these challenges, because knowing them will help you face them with confidence. One challenge is speed and natural speech. Even at advanced level, native speakers can feel too fast. They cut words, they join sounds, they speak without thinking about learners. This can be frustrating, but it's normal. The solution is to train your ear every day with real, natural English. Movies, podcasts, street conversations, things that are not textbook English. At first it feels impossible, but slowly your brain adapts. Another challenge is vocabulary explosion. When you're advanced, you know thousands of words, but natives use expressions, idioms, and cultural references you never studied. For example, someone might say, "that's a piece of cake," and they don't mean food. They mean, "it's easy." At this stage, you must build your vocabulary in context. That means listening to how people really use words, not just memorizing lists. Understanding humor, irony, and sarcasm is also difficult. This is one of the biggest walls. Humor often depends on culture, not only language. Imagine two friends joking about a popular TV show. If you don't know the show, you miss the meaning. Or if someone says, "oh, great," with a sarcastic tone, it actually means, "This is bad." The key here is not to panic. Smile, stay curious, and slowly learn these cultural details. Mental fatigue is another challenge. At advanced level, listening can feel tiring. Your brain is working very hard to catch every detail. Sometimes you might feel like giving up, but here's the secret. Take small daily doses instead of long, heavy study. 10 minutes of focused listening every day is more powerful than 3 hours once a week. Consistency always wins. And here's something important to remember. Progress at this stage is often invisible. You may feel like nothing is changing, but your brain is building stronger connections every time you listen. Think of it like exercise. When you go to the gym, you don't always see results after one day, but your muscles are still growing. Listening works the same way. Even if you don't feel improvement immediately, your ears and brain are slowly training to catch sounds, accents, and deeper meaning. So remember, if you feel stuck at advanced level, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you are on the edge of mastery. Push a little more, give yourself time, and one day you will realize you can follow English without effort. Now that we've discussed the challenges learners face at advanced level, let's focus on practical strategies and daily habits that can help you reach mastery. At this stage, consistent effort is more important than ever, but small, smart practices can make a huge difference. Even if it's just 15 to 20 minutes a day, listen to real English, podcasts, news, interviews, or TV shows. Make it part of your routine. The key is consistency, not length. Your brain adapts better with frequent exposure than with long, irregular sessions. Don't just let the sound flow in the background. Focus on understanding the meaning, tone, and intent behind words. Ask yourself while listening, what is the speaker trying to say? How do they feel about this? Why did they choose these words? At advanced levels, it's important to expose yourself to different topics, accents, and styles. Listen to debates, lectures, casual conversations, or storytelling. Each type of English challenges your brain in a new way, helping you become flexible and adaptable. Shadowing is also very effective. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it at the same time, matching the speed, tone, and rhythm of the speaker. This improves not only listening, but also pronunciation and natural flow. Over time, it makes understanding fast speech much easier. Instead of trying to catch every single word, train yourself to understand phrases and expressions. Native speakers often link words together, so listening for chunks allows you to follow faster speech and comprehend meaning more smoothly. After listening, write down the main points or summarize what you understood in your own words. This makes your listening active, strengthens memory, and helps you notice details you may have missed at first. While active listening is key, don't forget passive listening. Having English on in the background while doing daily tasks. Your brain continues to absorb rhythms, intonation, and natural patterns even when you're not fully focused. Finally, at this stage, pay attention to culture. Advanced and near-native listening often depends on understanding cultural context. Listen for jokes, idioms, or expressions that carry meaning beyond the words themselves. This deepens comprehension and helps you feel more connected to English speakers. By practicing these habits daily, you gradually train your brain to understand English naturally. Even in fast conversations or complex topics, it's not about perfection, it's about steady, smart growth. Now we've reached a stage where you are approaching mastery in listening. You can understand most English you hear, even fast conversations or complex topics. But here's an important truth. Listening skills, like any skill, can get weaker if you stop practicing. One of the most important things at this stage is to keep listening daily. Even at mastery, your brain needs constant exposure. If you take long breaks, your comprehension can slow down. Make listening a daily habit, even if it's only 10 to 15 minutes of podcasts, news, or conversations. It's also important to challenge yourself with harder content. Don't get comfortable with easy materials. Push your brain with topics you find difficult, like technical subjects, debates, or academic lectures. This prevents your listening from plateauing and keeps your brain sharp. At mastery level, comprehension isn't just about understanding the main idea. You also need to focus on subtle details, like nuance, emotion, implied meaning, and tone. Practice noticing sarcasm, humor, and subtle differences in expression. This deepens your understanding of natural English. Mixing active and passive listening is another key habit. Active listening, where you focus fully and analyze content, is still very important. But passive listening, like having English on in the background while cooking, walking, or cleaning, also helps. Your brain continues to absorb rhythm, vocabulary, and intonation unconsciously. Regularly reviewing and summarizing what you hear is very powerful at this stage. After listening, summarize the content in your own words. You can do this aloud, write it down, or even discuss it with others. This strengthens memory and refines your understanding of details. It's also essential to expose yourself to different accents and dialects. Even advanced learners often struggle with unfamiliar accents. Listen to British, American, Australian, Canadian, and other varieties of English regularly. This strengthens your ability to understand English in real-world situations. Finally, stay curious and engaged. Always pick topics that excite you. When you are curious, your brain is naturally more alert, making listening easier and more enjoyable. By combining these strategies, your listening remains strong, flexible, and natural. You'll be able to follow conversations, lectures, podcasts, and even movies without stress. Your brain becomes trained to automatically understand meaning, context, and emotion in English. And just like a native speaker, you can follow conversations, lectures, podcasts, and even movies effortlessly. Now we've come to the final part of this episode, and it's a good moment to reflect on the whole journey, from beginner, where listening felt like noise, all the way to advanced and near native understanding. At the beginner stage, you trained your ears to recognize sounds, words, and simple phrases. You learned to enjoy listening even if you didn't understand everything. Then, at early intermediate stage, you began catching short phrases and simple sentences, slowly connecting ideas. At the intermediate stage, you could understand the main idea even if some details were missing. This is where your brain began filling gaps and making logical guesses. As you moved to the upper intermediate stage, you started catching more details, tone, and emotion. You began noticing humor, sarcasm, and faster conversations. At the advanced stage, you understood almost everything in conversations, podcasts, movies, and even lectures. Finally, at the mastery or near native stage, your brain processes English naturally, understanding meaning, emotion, and nuance almost effortlessly. How do you maintain and strengthen these skills at mastery? Keep listening daily, challenge yourself with harder content, pay attention to subtle meaning, expose yourself to different accents, practice summarizing, and stay curious. Listening is not just about words, it's about culture, emotion, and context. Remember, progress is gradual, but every step counts. Even if you feel stuck sometimes, your brain is building stronger connections with every minute of listening. Consistency and patience are the keys. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today on Best English Podcast. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep growing. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the channel, share it with friends who are learning English, and leave a comment about which tip helped you the most. Your support helps this community grow and motivates me to create more episodes for you. Goodbye, and keep enjoying your English listening journey.